What's good, people in the world? Today, it's your boy Rob Mega here, and we are back for another episode of Star Atlas Chatter, and this is number 13, and we are titling this bad boy Xcode Adventures and Richness. Okay, so as you can see here, I have an image of the claim stakes tier 1 being sold out. That was some of the big news this week. At one point, I think it was Tuesday, there was like 800, it went to 700, and then you blink your eye and they were all sold out. So people are on those claim stakes. Of course, you can still get some now on the secondary market. The price obviously jumped up a little bit. I think they were like $32. Last time I looked, they were $40 something. So they are still available, but I just found it interesting because the very first episode, if you have been following me here on Star Atlas Chatter number 1, we talked about claim stakes, and to me, I always thought that it was going to be huge. So I even put here in the too long didn't read, claim stakes are incredibly important, not only for the immediate to midterm leading into Sage, but well beyond. So now, it's also important to remember that claim stakes will be craftable though in the future. So there's some, further down the line, they will be craftable. However, that's gonna take a while. So you're gonna wanna have some claim stakes if you don't have them already. So not financial advice, but get you some claim stakes. Okay, so let's jump into it. It's been a short week here, not too much alpha, but early on in the week, I believe it was in the general channel, we had Xcode, member of the Star Atlas team, and he was just discussing his experience as they continue to play test Sage Labs and his kind of day in the life of playing Sage Labs. So there were some great questions from the community that were brought up. So let's jump in. We have here, did warp distance play a part in how you mapped out where you could go? Xcode says warp distance plays a huge part. Okay, are there multiple ways to go somewhere with some routes that may be more efficient? Xcode, you have to transport and cache fuel at strategic points to maximize efficiency. So depending on the size of your fleet, what you're trying to focus on, you're gonna wanna have caches or storage spots at different space stations around Gallia as you complete your mining operations and crafting and so forth. Because remember, if you have resources at Starbase A and you wanna craft at Starbase B, but you don't have any resources there, you actually have to transport from resources on Starbase A over to B so you could then use them and so forth. So we talked about that a couple of weeks ago as well. So next we have, do you feel like you could happily play 100 hours with even an X4, one of the smaller ships here? He says, that's a tough one to answer. And all I will say is that I'm constantly making suggestions to make the game more fun for single ship noobs and thinking about progression from class to class. So, didn't quite answer the question, but it kind of answers the question of if all you have is the X4, it may be a little bit rough, maybe not as fun, but be consistent. What I love about this game, you should be able to scale up, sell some resources, SDUs, what have you, maybe get another ship and parlay that into another ship and some more resources and claim stakes and so forth, and start with 0 and become a hero. So should be fun. We got some information on large fleet commanders from Xcode. So good news for you guys with the super duper large fleets. For people with really large fleets, most of your time will be spent calculating what to do before you press the button on the ledger. So a little side note, Ledger is supported, of course, and you will have to approve. They talked about every transaction, as that's the purpose of Ledger. So just be aware of that if you have not figured that out yet. Next, we have on large fleets. I haven't tried the mining on big ships yet, but yeah, you have some downtime. I'm just not sure how much, and it's still changing. So, as we know, the bigger your ships, the larger your fleets, the more downtime you'll have between when you have to commit an action. So you can send your fleet out far, wait a little while, you can craft, wait a little while, go to sleep, wake up, crafting be finished and things like that. But for the smaller fleets, it's going to be snapped maybe 10, 15 minutes here and there, 30 minutes before you have to perform your next action. That's my understanding so far anyway. So we'll see once we get in there. And good news for ARC owners. If you didn't already know, I wish I had an ARC. I almost got one, but I ended up taking some assets and getting some in real life tools and gadgets. So, but ARC owners, your ARC is going to be a rock star in labs, and we kind of already knew this when some of the stats were dropped. So, not financial advice from Xcode, but yeah, you will be a rock star with your ARC. Okay, so now we touched on this before. It's been a couple of weeks, but Michael did go ahead and clarify on the exclusivity of ships and what that actually entails. So just to kind of summarize and get everything in one neat bullet point format here, I'll read. Michael Wagner says, I did mention that the Thimble Mamba EX is going to be one of the exclusive items. They will have supply caps conforming to our standard price / quantity model. And yes, they'll be first come, first serve. A few of these ships will be allocated to the Golden Tick raffles as well. And to clarify, these will be craftable in the future like other ships, but they are redemption recipes for labs. I always say receipts for labs. So I got the bullet points, max supply, first come, first serve. Automata will never sell them. That's where some of the confusion was in the past. Automata's not going to sell them, but they will be craftable just like any other ship in Star Atlas. So that's good to know. So we did have Wednesday's Atlas Brew number 78 with the team, with the usual suspects, Dominic Vane, Jose, and Santi. So it wasn't any new alpha, a lot of tips and things that we've covered in the past. So if you've been keeping up with our chatters, you're up to date on all that stuff, but it's still good for reminders. Check it out. However, there was a section where Jose did mention resource richness, and he talked about it as new alpha. Now, to be fair, this may have been the first time that a member from the Star Atlas team has touched on resource richness, but the information is in the Sage Game Manual Part 2, so it's there for you. So at this time, I will go ahead and touch on that just to make sure that we're all on the same page, and we will close with this tidbit of information here. So resource richness, I'm not going to read over all this, but I do want to go over the example here just to break it down so everybody is good. So we have here, suppose 100 copper per second is being emitted on planet X with a system richness of 1. We also have copper being emitted on planet Y in a different system with a richness value of 2. The emission rate on planet Y is going to be 200 copper units per second. In this scenario, if conditions and time spent mining are the same. So that is good to know. Even for common resources, like something like copper, it may still be beneficial to move further out into the medium rich zone because you're going to have higher richness. So that's going to be the fun. That's what, depending on the size of your fleet, the types of ships that you have in your fleet, that's going to determine, what's going to be the best way going forward and what you choose to focus on. So that was some good information for this week. And that was it. It was a quickie for this week. Have a great week coming up. Rob Mega is out. Load the buoy.